Welcome, sick things, to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling, and I've got a very special guest returning, Mr. Mike Meadus, also known to one and all as the Alice Cooper Collector. And as you may have guessed, I know some of you have asked when I'm going to talk about this. We're here to talk about the latest Alice Cooper album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper, which of course isn't just another Alice Cooper album. This is a full on reunion with the original surviving members of the band, including, you might as well say, the sixth member, Bob Ezrin. I mean, Bob's been pretty much working with them for the last few. But yeah, Mike, so not only are we going to talk about the new album, but Mike also has an incredible story to relate because Mike was actually in London for the launch, the release party of this album, and was there, live before your steaming eyes, watching the original Alice Cooper group, real like minus Glenn Buxton, although he's definitely there in spirit. So, Mike, I want to thank you for coming on and doing this. This is great.
Oh, my pleasure, Tim. Like I said before, anytime you've got an Alice Cooper subject that you want to chat about, I'm always here. And certainly this is worthy of a discussion. As you
Oh,
said, first album in 50 plus years from our original heroes. So
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
I
yeah.
was
I mean,
I
I was
was
just go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead, Tim.
No, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Like you said, I'm back a few days now from being over in London for I went over for 5 or 6 days. Took in a couple of different events. Main reason I went over was, as you said, the launch party. Place called Union Chapel, this beautiful old church that was built in like 1600 something. Like, I mean, just the venue alone was worth the price of admission. Um, 1,000 or so fans stacked up in the balconies, and then just this beautiful setting with beautiful wingback chairs and leather couches on a stage, and there they are, right? And of course, I've seen Alice multiple times, but seeing Alice and Dennis and Michael and Neil and Bob Ezrin in the same room being interviewed, hearing obviously most people in the audience had only heard the three songs that had been pre-released at that point, but just hearing the entire album in that setting. And then, of course, the other main reason, or probably the main reason that I wanted to go over to London to begin with, is just the amount of friends that I have through my collecting. Um, just so many from the UK and from all over the world that were all there. So it was really fantastic to not only be a part of that launch event, but then of course see so many people who I'd known, who I've been trading with, and who've been sending me collection, and I feel like I've known them for 5 or 10 years. And to be in the same room with not only all these great Alice Cooper family members, I consider them, and then and the originals was really quite something. And then, of course, the next day was the O2 show with Alice and Judas Priest at the O2, right? So it was kind of a two-for-one deal in terms of being able to take in events or gigs. But yeah, it was fantastic to hear the album, and I'm super grateful to be on your show once again. And what a great subject, right, to go over. And I was just saying
Yeah.
to you before you hit record, I've been people have been reaching out to me saying, I gotta know, what do you think of the album?" And I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything just yet because in like 3 days I'm on Tim's show, and
Uh,
I don't want
man,
to, and
I
I was
appreciate.
compiling my notes and
Yeah.
everything, but I'm really excited to finally be able to
Yeah.
talk about it publicly today.
I so appreciate that. That means a lot. And yeah, the last time that Mike was on Tim's Vinyl Confessions was, I want to mention this, was to go through our Alice Cooper 8-track collections. But since doing that, I want to thank Mike once again because he found an extra copy of the elusive Special Forces from 81 and sent it to me. He asked me for my address. I'm like, oh, okay, here it is. I'm like, I wonder what he's going to send me. And then he just made a couple posts, and I'm like, oh, I think I know. And I got really excited. So thank you for that. I mean, that was, sometimes
Oh, my pleasure, Tim.
when you finally get something into your collection that you've been looking for a long time, sometimes it happens, then you start to see it pop up.
Yeah,
That is not the case. That it
yeah.
remains a very, very
It's
rare album to find on just about any format. I mean, it's hard to find on cassette, right?
it is
Even.
hard to find on cassette and extremely hard to find. Although funny you should mention it. It's I never thought I'd find another one. I
Yeah.
had the one copy and I thought I'd never find another one. And then when I did see another one pop up and for a reasonable price, I snapped at the chance. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do with it? I mean, what am I going to do? It's not like I don't have multiple copies of a lot of things,
Right.
right? Uh, but for an item like that, I just thought, you know what? There's no better home than the man who's written a book on on the format. So, fellow Canadian collector and an 8-track enthusiast and dare I say expert needs this. I know it was on your want list. We've talked about it
Yeah.
before. I checked your Discogs just to make sure it was still on the want list. I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah.
sure I would have heard if you'd found a copy, but I thought
Oh,
I'll
I'd let you know. Yeah. I would have
throw it
let
in
you
the
know.
mail and complete that collection. So it's probably you probably got all the Alice 8 tracks now or close to it, other than maybe
Except
Astro's Turf.
except for the AstroTurf. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
there's one on eBay right now.
Oh, is there? I'm
Yeah,
almost
there
afraid
is.
to look, see how much it
I
is, but
think yeah, it might be open for bids. I'm not sure, but
uh
it won't be cheap because I think there
yeah.
were only 100 of each color made. So,
Yeah.
but
I missed out on that. And but that's a good segue. The AstroTurf show is a good segue because, I mean, so over the years, Alice and the original guys have come back together for a couple of songs. Like there's two songs
yep,
on Paranormal, and then they did the AstroTurf show. But this is the first time that we've gotten a full album of the original Alice Cooper band, as intact as they
yep,
can be, since Muscle of Love. And
absolutely.
so, it's quite a thing. And yeah, I've been curious too what you think of this because um, like I said before we started filming, a lot of, friends of mine that we message back and forth, we're all Alice Cooper fans. And I think it's safe to say that none of us have been really excited about anything that's come out since I'm gonna say Paranormal, and then I
Yeah,
think,
I'm in the same boat.
was it that I mean, I listened to it not too long ago, but I listened to it again. It was like, yeah, I like this, but is it that it's that good, or is it just that everything that's come after it hasn't been as good? I think it's actually quite
Uh,
good, uh,
I agree.
but
But it's in comparison, I think. In comparison, it even gets another notch up. I probably would have given 2017's Paranormal if it was just the last Alice Cooper album, solo album with the Alice Cooper moniker. I might have given it a half a point or a point less than I do in my ranking simply because I'm not a massive Breadcrumbs, Detroit Stories, certainly Road. It's just
yeah,
they've just not been projects that I think that have spoken to me
yeah,
much. Whereas Paranormal did have some pretty good, and I mean, speaking of the band and some of the songs that have been on those albums, The Sound of A. For me, The Sound of A is the cream of the crop from Paranormal. And you're right, the band has hinted at, or I wouldn't say hinted at, but they've put out snippets enough to keep us fans of the original five Alice Cooper, the or four now, R.I.P. Glenn, interested in maybe it'll happen. Even all the way back to Welcome to My Nightmare, right? When Hell
yeah,
Comes Home. When Hell
yeah,
Comes Home was a fantastic track, my favorite from that album. So I mean, when Hell Comes Home was my favorite on that album. Sound of A was my favorite off Paranormal. So I was very excited because when they did put a song or two on an album, to me it was always the standout track. And that's to take nothing away from Alice's either touring band or studio and touring band in the case of Road. But the last couple albums, just solo albums, just haven't done a ton for me. So for that reason, I was really excited, but I was also like I was almost nervous because I hate slagging on anything with the Alice Cooper moniker.
yeah,
Um, I really don't like, like we had a segment, and I still don't like Road. It hasn't grown on me. Uh, just if anybody's wondering, I dislike that album pretty much front to back. And I hate it. I hate that there's something that has the Alice Cooper moniker that that I just dislike. So my bar was low going into this one, but my hopes were high,
yeah.
and I'm excited to chat about today on what it did, how it fared, given that was what was going through my mind going into it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I was talking about this, I've been on, a lot of other shows lately, promoting my books
Yeah, I
and
bet.
I talk about, I think everybody goes through this when you're a fan of any veteran group or artist. When you find out they're putting out new music, there is a sense of excitement, but there's also a sense of foreboding. And
Yeah,
to put it very bluntly, I think the fear everybody has is, what if it sucks? And you don't and you want to support,
yeah.
because I love the whole concept of these old bands still putting out new music. I think they should.
Hmm.
I don't get to see many shows. I'm not, as I'm getting older and more cranky in my, curmudgeonly encroaching old age, uh parking and travel and all of that, all of those things will say, I don't know if I want to go to that, but I'll always buy a new album if somebody puts
Yeah,
out, brand new music. And you want it to be good. You want to root for them and you want to say, look, see, they did it again. But yeah, with the case of Alice, I mean, just to rewind the last few years, Paranormal, I think, was quite a good album, but then Breadcrumbs is sort of, it's kind of it's an EP, and some of it's on Detroit Stories. Detroit Stories was heavy on covers, and I wasn't
yeah.
so much. Some of it I liked, some of it I wasn't so much into. And then yeah, you and I both, we reviewed Road when it came out, and I think both of us figured that, like, this is just, the songwriting was just not
Not up to
up
par. Yeah,
not up to Alice's standard. I mean, some of it was okay, but then some of it was really like, wow, you really didn't put much time into this at all. So
yeah.
now that brings us full circle to the Revenge of Alice Cooper, which yeah is, and it's legit. It's a reunion. I mean,
Yep.
they even managed. I'm going to guess it's an existing, guitar track. Glenn Buxton does make his
They did.
presence
Yeah.
known on this. Yeah. So and I love the artwork. That's very old school horror movie poster,
Yep.
Michael Bruce with like a lobster claw for a hand. And I'm sure it's based on something, some old horror movie poster that, um,
Yeah, I think it's just based on those kind of carnival, almost a carnival freak show meets old, monster movie kind of
yeah.
art direction and the typography and illustration style. I think they did a pretty neat, decent job with that. I don't know that it fits with an overall. I was expecting maybe a bit more of that theme maybe to go through. You hear Black Mamba, it definitely had some foreboding opening, and I want
Right,
to I don't
right.
don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we are going to go track by track. But when you listen to the first few guitar and Dennis's bass notes on Black Mamba, you really think you're going to go into a dark kind of mysterious, and you certainly do on a few songs for sure.
Right, right.
Um,
But not everything.
but not and I'm not saying that the cover needs to speak to exactly what all 14 in this case, because there's a lot of songs on here, 14
Yeah.
songs are going to be. But no, I don't want to split hairs and be too picky on things. I am a graphic designer, so I don't mind. I think that they've done a good service to the cover. I'm quite pleased with the overall kind of art direction. I do look at an album cover,
Yeah.
just being a designer by trade, and that's another one of the other reasons I don't like some of the last albums, to be honest. And that might sound weird, but I didn't like the cover of Road, didn't like the
Well,
cover of Detroit Stories at all, and I didn't.
I
And even going back to Paranormal, I thought the last few covers, when you look at Alice Cooper, either as a solo or especially as the band, right? They were always known. They were up for Grammy Awards for some of their album packaging, right, with Schools Out
yeah.
and things. And from all the way back to the first couple of straight records with their weird covers, right? One was the Ed Beardsley painting Strawberry, I believe it was called Strawberry Cake, that had the you know kind of odd illustration for what the album was, and then um, the shot of the boys with the really long hair standing backwards on the cover of Easy Action, and then you get into the classic run and the classic shots of Love It to Death and the killer of Kachina the Snake on there, and Billion Dollar Baby's Open Like a Wallet, and School's Out was the desk, and even the Muscle of Love with the covers and artwork for all of the band years, and then even a lot of the Drew Struzan's beautiful illustration work on some of the covers, like
Like
Greatest
Welcome to My
Hits and
Nightmare,
Welcome to
and
My
yeah.
Nightmare. They were always And then, you know, you get into the 80s and there's some of the cheese, the constrictor, the snake coming out of the mouth and whatever, but they were kind of fitting for the times. But
Yeah.
I've also found that a lot of the packaging, the way the albums are kind of presented, have kind of not been up to par in recent years. And that's for me again. And a lot of people look at that and go like, "Oh man, who cares?" I'm just pointing it out because I have been a graphic
Well,
designer for
I think
32
you're,
years as well, and it's
yeah,
I look at the way a packaging,
yeah.
the way a package comes across from all those kind of details. So
Well, I think it has, I mean, the effort that it's the effort put in, right? And that
yeah,
extends to everything. So you kind of look, if you look at a cover that doesn't look like a lot of effort's put in, you can't help but wonder, well, how much effort was put into the music?
yeah.
So,
But I
but
agree. I agree on these ones. These are pretty neat packages. I've got the black, the the yellow, and the violet marble that were all kind of waiting for me when I got back from London. So
very
it
cool.
was
Yeah.
it was fantastic. You know, obviously I'd been there for the album release, but I actually didn't get a chance to really sit down until I was back and I unwrapped these vinyl. And of course, I bought the 7-inch box set as well, which is basically just the Digipack CD. But I bought it for the 7-inch with the bonus tracks.
Awesome.
So the
Yeah.
bonus tracks are on the CD. There's a lot of people out there that probably don't realize that because they're not listed on the
They're not listed, and when you pop them in like on, your media player or whatever, they're not titled, but they're
doesn't
there.
come up. So they're truly kind of hidden tracks in that sense, but they're there, which is fantastic because I thought the only way you'd be able to, and I would have bought this anyway because you know me and I have a 7-inch collection and I'm really into I love the 45. So I would have purchased this just to get those two songs on that 7-inch format as well. But we can run through those two songs as well, maybe at the end of the list,
Yeah,
because those were
I think we should. Yeah. And if
interesting
yeah,
additions as well.
if people just because I just, yeah, I got the yellow vinyl, but I got the CD just from Amazon, and yes, it
Yeah,
does have those two songs. So let's get into it. I will say, yeah, about this cover, it does jump, it would jump off a
yeah,
shelf.
I
Like
agree.
I wish that, like we always talk about the newer albums, they don't sell in massive quantities, but it would be great to go into a record store and see an end cap just full of these, that would really,
Well,
really
I've
jump
also
out.
been seeing some really great marketing around this. Not just in press. There's been I bet you I've seen 50 different music magazines from around the world with Alice the band on the cover.
Yep.
It's really cool to see Alice the band, the four of them, sometimes Bob Ezrin in there as well, on the cover, as opposed to just seeing Alice's face, right? Because fairly early on, even in the bad years, right, it was all just about Alice. If there was a picture, if there was a poster that came in Cream magazine, right, it was Alice with a snake on stage, and it was never really the five guys that were promoted, other than maybe a Muscle of Love. There was some great promotion where they were all the sailors. I think they needed to tell that
Yeah.
story with five of them.
Yeah.
But it's really great to see all the press, but also the some of the marketing around it, like all over around London. There were double-decker buses with this after 50 years, the Revenge of. It was really cool to see some of this stuff in person. Really large uh, billboards pasted up in areas like Camden and things like that. And then I've also been seeing since a lot of people's shots from around the world, in France and Germany, and just buildings wrapped and like it's it is striking artwork when you see it in large scale like that. So definitely, kudos to that. It does bring home that kind of excitement. And I think people are
Yeah.
seeing that marketing and those bright colors and some of the verbiage that they've used. I think they did a good job with it. So
And it's one of those things. I mean, and I work in radio advertising, so it's like maybe it's not the first time somebody sees it, but if they keep seeing it, if they keep seeing
totally,
it over and over again, maybe I'll check that out. That's how
yeah,
this works. It's not always a one and done thing, unless you're like us and you're fans and you've been waiting for it and you're going to get it regardless. And I will say,
yes,
like as
yeah.
far as the guys getting it together for a full album, I'm glad they did it before we lost any more of them. I mean,
Well, I was just
as
gonna,
I mean, we're our rock and roll heroes are they're leaving
yeah,
us, right? I mean,
yeah.
as you were there, uh, that was I'm assuming you were over there when the news hit about
Uh,
Ozzy.
I was on my way to the airport,
Yeah,
Tim, and I that's the first thing I thought as well. The first thing after you said, do you want to come on and review this album next week when you're back, kind of thing. After that, I was one of the and sitting over there and listening to the album launch at Union Chapel and listening to the guys all talk, and Alice and a couple of the other members, I think, touched on that during the night as anyway. But in my mind, it was definitely kind of a heavy moment of these guys are all in their late 70s,
Yeah.
around the same time Ozzy was.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that Father Time always wins, right? And we're not going to have these experiences, so it cemented my decision to go over and see these guys all in one room, because I don't know if I'll get to see them all again. I don't think they're going to do much of a tour. They're doing Alice's Christmas Pudding in Phoenix in November, but other than that, I don't think there's going to be a full-fledged tour, because although Alice will die on the road, like he has
Yeah.
said, like, I'm going to go till I can't because it's the only life I've ever known. That's not the case for Dio and Dennis and
That's
Michael.
right. Yeah.
They've certainly are road warriors, and they've toured a lot in their careers, but nothing like Alice has. They're not doing 250 dates or however many Alice, um, and maybe not 250, but they're not doing a couple hundred
Yeah. I
shows a
mean,
year.
for a guy his age, he's got to be one of the most active touring
Absolutely,
musicians. I
absolutely.
mean, he
And
just
and
hammers the road.
much as I love the other guys, they're not built to travel like that, nor play. I think night after night after night after night. I don't think they're going to tour much. So I'm glad I went over to see the originals. I'd never been in the room with all of them at the same time before, so it was really cool to see that. But again on this album, but before we even just get into the track by track, Tim, I went into this thing with a really open mind as well. I'm also a realist, right? It's been 50 plus years. It's not 1973. These guys are in their late 70s. Glenn isn't there. Um, so it's not, I wasn't going in going like this is going to be as good as the seven album. To me, I've got a shirt that says you can only trust yourself in the first seven Alice Cooper albums, and that shirt still stands. This is a fantastic album, but I see some of the quotes that are in kind of some of these marketing materials as well. It's like it feels like no time has passed, or picking up right where they left off with the classics. I mean, that's marketing talk, right? Of
Yeah.
course they're going to
Yeah.
say that. Why wouldn't they say that? But of course, it's not going to have like the lightning in a bottle that they had from 71 to 73,
I've
right?
got
It's
that
not
written
going to
down.
have,
Yeah. I've got that written
yeah,
down for some of the tracks. Like there's a certain thing, there are
definitely,
certain things that
definitely.
can't be recaptured. And I want to get into the London trip really badly, but let's get into the track by track. Um, First track on the album, and I think the first song that was made available, I think the first song that was made available is Black Mamba.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Black Mamba. I had two main points written down, but what did you think of this? Like, what did you think of it when you
Well,
first heard it, and has that
yeah.
changed?
It has changed a little bit, and I didn't dislike it, but it's grown on me even more than it did. I think it's a pretty strong track, to be quite honest. Now, it did take a few listens, but I don't think that's a bad thing. That something can take a few listens. I think the main thing that struck me that maybe had to grow on me a bit was the yeah 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 yeah
Same
yeah
here. Yeah, I was like,
chorus. Okay.
really? Is that all you could? Yeah, yeah,
Um, I remember listening the first two, three times and going like, love the creepy opening, love that the tone it's setting right there. Was worried when I heard, I think I'll crawl inside. We've talked about that Alice voice before and him using it a ton.
yeah,
On Road, seems like he did that voice more than he sang. It
yeah,
was that kind of Carnival Barker,
yeah,
almost like the King Herod from
yeah,
Jesus Christ
yeah.
Superstar, almost
Always
kind of
get the
voice.
money.
Yes, and I was like, oh my God, this album better not be 14 tracks of him
Yeah.
mostly relying on that voice. I want to hear Alice sing. Still has
Yep.
a great voice.
That's right.
So
Yep.
I was a little scared when I heard that, but then I got, okay, it's setting it up, and he got away from that for the most part in the rest of the song. Um, but I loved Dennis's bass line.
Oh yeah.
Doom, doom,
Yeah.
doom, doom. Like it really set a tone, almost make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. And then I listened to it and I'm like, okay, you got Robbie Krieger in there from the Doors, and it's a pretty cool riff. And I thought the rhythm section was chugging along quite nicely. Again, Dennis's bass line, drums were going pretty good. And then when it got to that first yeah, 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 that
Yeah.
seemed to
Yeah.
go on
Yeah.
forever because it
Yeah.
repeats like four measures, right? Like it goes all the way through like a full chorus, but only
Yeah.
in yas. I thought the same as you. I was like, is this the demo? Is this like they didn't have the words yet, so they're just putting in the yas? But then I started it was in my head. I'll definitely admit it became an earworm pretty quick.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
in the shower the next day and I'm going, yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it did
Yeah.
its,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it did its job, right? Then I started reading a little bit more about it, and I don't know if this is true or not, or even where I read it, but um, that "Yeah Yeah Yeah" was based on a New Orleans voodoo chant
Okay.
that's pertains to the snake, the black mamba. Um, I don't know if that's the case or not, but it's almost like, or I've heard it's like it's almost coming from the snake. You know what I mean? Like it's from that point of view as the snake kind of. Um, it's grown on me. I don't mind. I don't love that chorus, but I think overall it's a pretty decent opening. It's a pretty solid song.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, I like the guitar riff, and I love Dennis's bass lines in it. I think Dennis's bass lines alone are worth the price of admission. So I think it's a fairly solid song.
Yeah, Dennis Dunaway has always been one of those great unsung bass
Yes,
heroes because he had such a unique sound and his bass lines informed so much of that classic material. So it's
one
really
hundred
good to
percent.
hear him on newer stuff. Yeah, the notes that
Yeah,
I had written down about Black Mamba, yeah, that chorus was I guess I can understand it needed to be wordless. It needed to
yeah,
just convey the melody and that story about the New Orleans thing, whether it's true or not, doesn't that just sound like a classic Alice Cooper story?
totally.
Just to
They got their name from a Ouija board too, right?
just to get yeah, just to get the people talking.
But
The
I mean, the song is being sung from the point of view of this snake. Alice is the snake in this song, so it kind of makes sense that it would, be from that. So,
would make more
again, it's
yeah.
yeah,
Would make more sense than it going just hissing the melody,
totally.
I suppose. And the
Yeah,
other thing I had written about the verses of the song kind of reminded me a little bit of Stranglehold by Ted Nugent, like da 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 baby, like which it's
yeah.
fine.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so it's
yeah,
like it's kind of got a classic rock feel to it. But yeah,
yeah,
when I first heard it, I'm like, you're shaking your head because
yeah.
I think the first reaction you think was like they couldn't even come up with, but and that's why a lot of times I don't even listen to advanced singles because I think they should be
Yes,
listened
yeah,
to in context of the entire album. And I certainly think that's the case here, but it's a great I mean, obviously the production sounds good, the musicians
yeah,
sound good. Alice sounds good. He's actually singing on a lot of this song. So, there's one thing about the Ya Ya section. He's singing. He's not
yeah,
doing the Carnival Barker voice or the Southern Baptist voice or he's
yeah,
actually
yeah.
singing.
Totally.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
so
Dennis's bass line does take the whole thing together, and we'll
eh,
say that a lot over the next
yeah,
13 songs after this,
his bass
because
playing
it's.
elevates a lot
I
of the
think that's
others.
one thing on this album that has been. You can tell an Alice Cooper solo album, and again, with no disrespect to anybody he's ever used
Right.
in studio or his current touring band, who were the studio band on Road, all fantastic musicians. But there's something about Dennis's note choices and
Yeah.
his bass lines in particular, that just he's so good, and you can almost, it's got an injection of Alice Cooper band. Just that's the main reason. Obviously
Yeah.
Glenn and Michael were huge parts of that sound, and Neil, and it was a 5-man operation. But I've always thought, if there's one member of the original Alice Cooper, the ingredients that you're putting in the Alice Cooper stew, Dennis would have been missed the most, and
Oh,
I still stand
Dennis.
by that.
Yeah, Dennis was probably the best musician of
Yeah,
of the five of them. And yeah, his bass playing, but there's that, but it's also I think a 70s thing in general, which comes out of the 60s, which definitely would come from the Beatles and the Yardbirds and
mhm.
where it was just expected that the bass player did not copy the guitar. That's an 80s thing. I don't know when
Yeah,
that
yeah,
actually started, but I mean, if you think about Tom Hamilton and Aerosmith, what he added to those songs, and even Gene Simmons, who's very self-deprecating, but if you listen to a lot of his bass lines in the 70s Kiss, they're not copying the guitar, they're adding to the
yes,
song. Now he
yeah,
regressed to the one note thing in the 80s, and that's a big difference between 70s and 80s rock is the role of the bass player. And Dennis
Totally.
was one of the finest. I mean, Dennis, if he'd been that way inclined, he could have been a prog band. I mean, when I think of his
Oh, for sure.
the way
Yeah.
his bass lines sing, I'm like, how different is that than Chris Squire? And yes, I mean,
His,
they just they
totally.
just
Or I mean, even all the way back to side two of Abbey Road, Paul McCartney. You know,
yeah.
that
I mean,
whole
and
that whole
I'm
yeah,
guessing a
yeah,
lot of bass players at that time were definitely influenced by McCartney. I mean,
yeah,
and it just
yeah.
stands to reason because he never did the one note thing unless a
No,
song
no.
called for it.
If
Um,
you isolate every instrument and were just to listen to only McCartney's, especially on an album like like Abbey Road,
you could tell what song
um,
it was.
you tell what song it was, but he was up and down the scale and doing his own thing, and then when layered with all the other instrumentation, it all like it all comes together. But like he certainly not a note for note. He's not following any guitarist or anything like that. He's
Yeah.
doing his own thing. And Dennis is like that as well. And Dennis was also, as Michael was, fantastic songwriters as well. And there's
Yep.
a number of songs on this album that Dennis penned as well. But yeah, his musicianship and his bass lines in particular really make this album and all Alice Cooper group
Yeah.
albums. So
I'm glad we have another set of songs to feature him. So next up we've
yeah,
got
yeah.
Wild Ones. What did you think of this one?
When it first came out, I didn't like it. I wouldn't say I disliked it, but I didn't it didn't do a ton for me, if I'm being honest. Uh, I know this was primarily, I believe, penned by Dennis. And it's based on the Wild Ones, Marlon Brando kind of
Yeah.
motorcycle gang kind of. It came out as the second pre-release right after Black Mamba. It didn't. It almost, and I hate to say this, it sounded very. It had me worried that this album was going to be more like a Road 2.0 because it subject matter wise, I get that it's when you go and you look at the Wild Ones, Marlon Brando kind of, and we heard that in person uh, at the Q&A when they went track by track and talked about it. But when you actually just kind of listen to the lyrics, they didn't do a ton for me. It almost sounded like something that could have fit right in on road, like these road warriors were playing this town and that town, and watch out, we're coming for your daughters. Like it didn't do a ton for me, and it hasn't grown a ton on me since then either. It's one of my least favorite songs on the album. Um, yeah, again, love Dennis's bass lines in it though. Like there's some
Yeah.
really fantastic bass in that as well. But I don't like it as much as Black Mamba.
No, definitely not. I wrote, faster tempo, nice that it's a change. You don't want the songs to have the same tempo all the way
Yeah.
through. What it kind of put me in mind of when I first heard it was the song Dynamite Road from
Yes.
Paranormal. So I thought it was going to be, well, me and the boy, da, 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 but
Yeah.
it's kind of, but it's kind of not. It's not one of my
Yeah.
favorites either. It just kind of this song just kind of is for me.
Yes.
I
That's
don't
that's where I'm at.
yeah, I don't think it's deserving of being the second track. I don't think it's that strong a track, but you know, I didn't sequence it, so
For sure. And it's also in hindsight being 2020 and in retrospect now that all 14 songs are out, I wouldn't have chosen the three. Black Mamba is a good single to
yep,
lead out with.
yep, that was a smart
I
idea.
wouldn't have put Wild Ones or Up All Night as the second and third pre-releases,
Yeah,
knowing what else was on this album. But again, they're maybe trying to just put out three that are all kind of slightly down different veins. I get it,
yeah,
um, but no, that's a good way to put it, Tim. It's just kind of there, like it's just a song that's it's kind of there. I don't like it. I don't hate it. It isn't like one that I'll never listen to again or anything like that. Um,
no, what
but it
what
is
there
what
is
it
to
is.
follow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So next we have you mentioned Up All Night. This one's got a slow verse, goes to double time in the chorus. Now, what I had written down, I found the chorus to be completely predictable, like
Yep.
like no disrespect to Tom Petty, but like learning to fly. I remember when I first
Yep.
started learning to fly, I know exactly what he's going to say after
Yep.
each verse. That's what I get out of this chorus. And it And like you said about the, we're coming for your daughters, and with these guys all in their late 70s and they're all family men, or well, I'm not sure. I know Alice is, but for I can
I
keep it
know where
up.
you're going.
I could keep it up. It's like it doesn't ring true. You know what I mean?
No,
It's like,
no.
what are you talking? It's like, to me, I think that the music is okay, but I think the lyrics are sort of below par.
I couldn't agree more. My notes are the exact same. I wrote the notes for this one the day it came out in my head. I did not like it. I am not a fan of this song. It hasn't grown on me. I don't. It's a decent opening riff, but then also the guitar underneath the vocals, they're almost very AC/DC to me too, where it's like na 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 na, like they stop and start as
Yep.
there's a almost rap like chorus going on over top. It's very much almost like an 80s AC/DC,
Yeah.
um, which isn't really my cup of tea. It's almost that rap voice. It gets a little, the song gets a little better in the last half of the song when the riff changes and it's less of that chunky and it's more of a rolling kind of riff. And I did like the addition of kind of the doo-wop backing vocals when they come in.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah, that
few
was cool.
songs that happens on in
Yeah.
this album, and I really like it. It's got that almost "Be My Lover" kind of
Yeah.
doo-wop, where the band comes in. So it did get a little better, but not enough to save it. And the lyrics are cringe because we know what he's talking about. And
Yeah.
I can keep it up all night. You should
Yeah.
be paying me.
It
It's
doesn't.
got a. I don't like when Alice. And again, I'm not looking at this going like this is a 76-year-old man and it needs to speak about golf and
Yeah.
hemorrhoids
Arthritis
business.
and
I'm
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it needs to be
Yeah.
about that. But when it goes too far the other way, and there's another song or two on this album that does the same thing where it's that suspension of disbelief. I can't get over the fact that this is a band that's been around for decades and decades and decades talking about something like
Yeah. Well,
keeping
let's
it up all night
yeah.
with a
Let's put it this way. If somebody had said, "Well, this was actually a leftover from Trash," I would have been like, "Okay, that makes sense." Because that's
right
what
next to
that
I'm Your Gun.
yeah,
Totally.
that's what he was going for.
Yeah.
He was going for that, let's shock the people, not shock the people, but let's be, the song Trash or anything like this Maniacs in Love with You or whatever.
Or totally.
Yeah.
Pull my trigger, I get bigger. I'm your gun. You know, um,
Yeah.
terrible stuff. But yes,
Um,
it was almost like that. It just and not suitable because and let's get this straight. There were a few songs towards the end of the original Alice Cooper group stint. Muscle of Love was a very sexual album in terms of
yes.
sailors on a shore leave, and it's working up a sweat and all the blisters on
Yeah.
my nose. There was some fun and there was talk of kind of that depravity, but you could kind of get into it because of the way the album's central feature, the central themes were these ragtag bunch of sailors on shore leave getting in trouble, and like you knew that the packaging, you open it up and it was the guys beat up outside the Institute of Nude Wrestling
Yeah.
strip club. You can get behind it because it's part of it. When you've
Yeah.
got
This
an
doesn't
album
fit.
which this isn't really a theme album, so when you get an album that isn't really a theme album and you just kind of throw, and I get that everybody kind of had a bunch of songs that they kind of threw into a pot, and you really did want to have this collaborative nature of everybody. It wasn't just an Alice, it's not just Alice and Bob writing.
Yeah.
Um, but for this particular song, this was Alice, Michael, and Bob Ezrin. It's too much. It's out of left field, and as soon as I heard the second verse where he leads into it with "and I can keep it, and I can keep it up all night," I was
Yeah.
like, "Ooh!" Like first off, "Ew." Second off, "Ew." Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to hear a song about
Yeah.
keeping it up all night.
Because
So
I
I am
mean,
not a fan of Up All Night.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, Alice is a really good lyricist. When
Yeah,
but yeah. All right, let's move on. Next up, we have
yeah.
Kill the Flies.
Okay.
So your thoughts on this one?
So now we get into side B. The way the album goes, we got it sides A,
Right.
B, C, D.
Yeah.
I kind of broke it down by what my favorite kind of sides were, and now we're getting into some stuff that I think really, really works well on this album. I think on side A, you had Black Mamba, and then a bit of a letdown, a bit of a gradual letdown with the next two pre-release singles that came out. We flip that platter and get over to Kill the Flies. Um, and this one was originally released by Neil Smith, I believe, earlier this year. He's got a version of it. He was primary songwriter on this one, I believe, and he had a
Yeah.
version of it that he did. I love and I think it's very much on purpose to have this kind of creepy Dwight Fry almost kind of
Yeah.
element to it. I think that it's something that's been quite frankly missing on an album, anything with an Alice Cooper moniker, probably since 2017's Paranormal.
Yeah.
Detroit Stories and Road didn't feel like Alice Cooper albums in that sense because there was no danger or eerie or creepiness or mist flies. Like there wasn't that element on any of those. So I'm really glad to see it injected back into an Alice Cooper project. I think it's a word. I mean, it's no Ballad of Dwight Fry. Let's be
Right.
honest. So
Right.
anytime I look at these and go like, this is the album's Ballad of Dwight Fry, I'm not saying it's as good as Ballad of
No,
Dwight
it's
Fry.
occupying that space.
But my God, if the guys could tour, imagine a medley in which you had a Looney Tune goes into Dwight Fry
Yeah.
goes into Kill the Flies. Like holy shit.
Yeah.
It's got that vibe. I buy the story that it's 50 years later and Dwight Fry is still locked up and now the flies are buzzing around him and they're kind of taking care of him, but he's okay to be there as well. Like there's a creepy element to it. And musically, um, I think it's quite good. It's quite catchy. I love the
Yeah.
doo-wop backing vocals, and again, I'll say that on several tracks on here. Doo-wop, wop, what he's doing, kill the
Yeah.
flies.
Yeah.
Like I love it's again going back to that. I really love the doo-woppy kind of vocals coming from a band that you didn't expect that from.
Well,
And
that's,
in the
yeah,
in the early 70s when Alice was on top of their game, that happened in quite a few
it
songs. In
did.
Be My Lover, there was
Yeah.
a doo-wop. Even in I Love the Dead, right? A
Yep.
necrophilia
Yep.
song towards the end of it, there
Yep.
was when they were doing that Hey Jude outro that just went on and on and on
Yep.
with I Love the Dead over and over. I love the backing vocals of the band and Bob Ezrin just doing this like doo-wop. Um, so I musically I quite like it as well, and I think it's the first really good song on the album. Probably like again, Black Mamba I thought was really good, but Kill the Flies. If we're going down the list now, it's probably my favorite that we've covered so far. So
Yeah, I quite like it. And you hit upon something with the doo-wop stuff. That's the difference between the Alice Cooper band and the bands that were influenced by them. But because those guys came out of the 60s,
yeah,
their natural tendency, you know what we need here? We need to be like Dion and the Belmonts.
totally,
But
yeah,
the 70s band, they just wouldn't think like that. But you put that in there and it works, even though on paper it doesn't look like it does. Now, I mean, it's
agreed.
funny you mentioned. I mean, obviously Dwight Fry and I get a little bit of maybe Steven.
Yeah,
What it made me think of, what I immediately pictured from walking around the grounds, I thought of From the Inside. Not
yeah,
certainly not musically, but that's what it made me picture. Alice in the Straitjacket, and
yeah, yeah,
he's
for sure.
they let him out of the quiet room for a while,
Well, there
and
you go, Tim. The medley just got even longer. You could do a really, you could do 4 or 5 songs in a row that really kind of a snippet of each of these, right? From Looney Tune to Dwight Fry to Kill the Flies to yeah, you're right. Some of those, obviously, that entire album has
well,
from the inside has several songs that you could,
you could end it off with
yeah,
Inmates, We're All Crazy, or
totally,
because yeah, you're right, and Alice has always done songs about that, about someone's deteriorating
yes,
mental state. Even on Paranormal, he had paranoid personality. He had
yeah,
what was the other one? Public private or
public-private
public
breakdown,
breakdown.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I like this one a lot, but there is something that I made a mention of, and it's on a lot of the songs. like you said, it's 2025. It's not 1973 anymore. There's an awareness that I don't think the guys had when they were originally doing these albums, or Bob, because they were such young guys and they were just going for it. So there was no
Yeah.
second guessing. This almost seems like, let's do a song like. Whereas before they were creating songs that didn't sound like anything that had come
Yeah.
before. I mean, I can only imagine when people first heard stuff like Black Juju or Ballad of Dwight Fry or Killer, it must have just been like this. What am I listening to? What is this?
Totally.
You know.
Yeah.
So next up we have One Night Stand. What do you think of this one?
Love it. Love it. Um, this song is stuck in my head and I'm okay with it, but no matter what I do, I can't get it out. I really like Alice's vocals on this one. I
Yeah.
like that deeper,
Yeah.
the deeper voice. Alice, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, and everybody who's a fan knows this, several different voices that Alice can kind of do,
Oh
and he's
yeah. Yeah.
got the signature scratchy Alice voice, and then there's there's kind of the spoken word, and there's the evil, there's all kinds of different.
There's the
But the one that is
when he does the ballad is a crooning voice. Yeah.
and this one almost has that. It's a more up tempo song, but it's got that deeper croony kind of
Yeah.
another night. I
Yeah.
really like the way he delivers the vocals on this one. It's different. It's the song that stands out on the album for that in terms of the deeper vocal delivery in his voice. Almost Desperado, not to that level.
Yeah.
Desperado was very much on purpose, and whether you believe the story of it being inspired by the Magnificent Seven or whether he truly did write it for Jim Morrison, because you've heard both versions of that. But either way, it's got that deep Jim Morrison in Desperado. So he's not going that deep with it, but he's lower. It's a lower octave, and I just like the way I like the tone of it. I like the way he delivers the vocals on that. He doesn't do it enough, and I also really love the theme of this one.
Yeah.
It's again, it's not one that they haven't gone down either as a band or certainly Alice as a solo artist gone down before in terms of kind of the unsuspecting serial killer murderer kind of thing. But
Right.
a really fun twist on this where he's, picking up these dancers or women of the night who think they're going to do him in, and he kind of beats them to the punch, right? And
Yeah.
they don't see the razor in my hand, another bloody one night stand. So thematically, I don't think music wise or certainly vocal delivery wise it wouldn't have fit in, but it almost fits in on Gale Roses on White Lace,
I
chop,
was
chop,
just gonna
chop.
say, I was
It's
just gonna say,
kinda,
it sounds like something lyrically that
yeah,
could have been one of the MCA albums.
it's
All the splatter songs,
it
blood
could
and
have fit
guts.
on Raise Your Fist and Yell side two
Yeah.
for sure. It's got Raise Your Fist and Yell side two vibes to it. And and I like the MCA albums quite a bit. I have fond memories because of the age I was, and it was around the time I was kind of discovering Alice. My first tour was in '88 on the Live in the Flesh. So obviously I've got a lot of time for those albums. They bring back good memories for me. And yeah, Raise Your Fist and Yell side two, One Night Stand is right. If that was written in 1987 instead and had Kane Roberts going over it on guitar instead, it would have fit right in between Gale and Chop Chop Chop. So
Yeah. Yeah.
love the song.
That was my
The
thought.
other thing I like, the other thing I like about it is almost the 007. It's almost like a James Bond
I
007 kind of guitar
those
on it, right?
the two things I had written down. I like the lyrical twist in it, and I like those minor chords, like down,
Yeah,
down, 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 like those
very
that
cool.
very close movement on the fretboard, and it
Yeah,
does create that mysterious sort of well, let's say man with the golden gun,
totally,
if we want to
totally.
go there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I totally agree with that. I like this one. This is to me is one of the highlights.
yes,
And next up, I will say in advance, not speaking for myself, from most people I've talked to, this seems to get mentioned the most as one of the best songs in the album, and that's Blood on the
yeah,
Sun. What are your
yeah.
thoughts on this one?
I think it's worthy of being in so many conversations
Yeah.
for that reason. It might be One Night Stand is close to my favorite on the album. Blood on the Sun probably edges it out by a hair. again, we don't need to. I don't want to spoil anything by saying it's my favorite track. But Blood on the Sun, Dennis Dunaway penned. I love the vocal style with the harmonizing and overlays. It really adds a nice texture to it. And although the lyrics might feel like they don't mean a whole lot, because Dennis wrote this song a while back, and it's literally written from old TV guides. Um,
Wow.
so he told this story in person at the Union Chapel event. Um, the band always read TV guides. Glenn Buxton used to collect TV guides, like
So did I when I
there
was
you
a
go,
kid.
boxes and boxes of them.
Yeah.
This literally every lyric, every word in this was just taken from titles of shows and movies out of old TV guides. But it's if you read them, if you read the lyrics, it's got an anti-war message to it.
Yeah.
So it's I think that's an interesting story. I think that's an interesting way to write a song. But the lyrics themselves go really, really well together. Even though that's how they were kind of cobbled together, I think they've got a very purposeful kind of feel to them.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, they work
I
so
would
damn
never have
well.
guessed. I would never have guessed that because they do sound like a continuous narrative.
Yeah, yeah. But this song, yeah, the texture of it, I like the slow and then the boom, 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 blah, like
Yeah.
how it ramps up. Then it's got a nice musical break. It's got some nice guitar work in there. I also love the false ending and the restart.
Yeah.
It's got a that and Neil's drums in it almost have that machine gun, which when you know it's an anti-war, it's kind of written about the kind of the
Yeah.
perils of war. Um, you once you know that, you go back and listen to it again, you can get even more and more out of this song. But I think it was very purposeful, almost like Metallica's One,
Yeah. With
where the Lars is doing that,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
was supposed to be reminiscent of machine guns. I'm quite certain that that was Neil's intent on the drums as well. When the song is going through that false ending and the restart, and then when it comes back in, that drum, the kind of marching band drum rolls are very reminiscent of almost the funeral procession in Killer.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
end when it's the end of which Alice is being kind of taken to
Beheaded and yeah.
being found guilty after his
Yeah.
trial at the end of that album, and it's got the organ and the marching style drums that so very much it reminds me of that. I would say, and again, I'm only using this as a comparison. This is the album's Halo of Flies for
I had
me.
that written down. It's a minor epic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not quite as long as Halo of Flies, and I'm not saying it belongs in the same. It's not. It's not. It's every bit as good as Halo of Flies because again, Halo of Flies cannot be touched. But it is an instant classic in terms of in the Alice Cooper canon for me. I think it's one that they did a fantastic job on. Like I said, I would say likely my favorite song on the album. I think each day some of the songs may go up and down a little bit, but Blood on the Sun is probably the pinnacle on this one, and very, very catchy. I mean, I
Yeah.
just can't stop. I can't
Yeah.
stop
No,
humming it and singing it and everything else. So
it's fantastic. And I like that I like the fact that they do the chorus in two different tempos in the song.
yeah.
That's kind of a cool little touch. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite on the album. Nothing is and the good thing is that there's a song that you can really get behind and say this is my favorite on the album. It's not one,
Mhm.
well, this is probably the best one on the album. No, I like this song a lot. This is my favorite on the album. The
Totally.
problem is that that's the peak.
Yes,
That's the peak of the album. So
I agree.
so for so for the next song, the crap that gets in the way of your dreams. I had one thing written down for this song, all day and all of the
And
night.
all of the night.
Dun, 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 dun,
That
dun, dun. Yeah,
I
and
wish you could I wish you could see my notes, Tim. That's the first thing. My
yeah,
first words on this, the first note I have written is meh, M-E-H. And then
yeah,
followed by the riff is very Kinks all day and all the night.
yeah. And this
Um,
is to me, this is the beginning of a bunch of songs that could have been on any of his last few albums.
yeah. This is one that could have been on road.
Yeah,
Uh, And again, it's the subject matter. You look at Blood on the Sun, and whether or not you know the how the it was written or not, the lyrics are fantastic.
Yeah.
You look at One Night Stand, and whether you like it, whether it's one of your favorites or not, it's a great, it's a well written song. Same with Kill the Fly. So you've just had three songs in a row in which you can really tell that a lot of work went into them and a lot of
Yeah.
not just in the music but in the lyrics. They are penned beautifully. And then we get, and I you know what, when the track listing came out 6 months ago, I probably knew that Crap That Gets in the Way of Your Dreams was not going to be one of my favorites. I don't even like the song title. I knew it was
Yeah.
probably going to be a bit of a throwaway, almost a bit of a song I can't take seriously.
Yeah.
That's what I think of it. And I don't like the vocal style
No.
of it, where he sings it like that. Now, it's not too dissimilar to his vocal style in Gutter Cat versus the Jets. However, it works in Gutter Cat versus the Jets. Maybe it's
Because the
because it was
concept is interesting.
the concept is there, and he's singing like a gutter cat, and it's
Yeah.
got the and it's got that kind of East West Side Story um, rival gang. So you're, of course, you're supposed to be kind of like singing it in that style, Doesn't do it. I don't like the way the Crap Gets in the Way. There's a mention in there of I take a hit of my bong. Again, it's the same kind of thing where it's like, oh man, you guys are all guys who've made it. Nothing's gotten in the way of your dreams, really. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
it's not one that I can kind of get behind. Again, I'm not expecting that everything they sing about be something completely believable and livable and like from their own, because songs are an art form and I want to get taken to different places. But that said, Crap That Gets in the Way of Your Dreams is one of the worst three. I have three songs on the album that I gave my lowest ranking to, and it's one of them.
Yeah. This is probably my least favorite just because
Oh,
lyrically I don't like it. I can't get behind the character. I have no sympathy for this character. He sounds like an overgrown man baby. Probably
yeah,
got some serious issues. And Alice can sing songs that are sort of about suburban, let's say, complaining, but if it's got just the right amount of either sort of poignancy or humor, I can get behind it. Like
yeah,
an example of the humor would be something like "It's the Little Things" from Brutal Planet. If you talk in
yeah,
the movies, I'll kill you right there, and that's funny.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it's
totally,
just, if I
totally,
ever hear you
yeah,
ask me how I got my name, but then and then the poignant part of it, if you listen to a song like "Man of the Year" from The Eyes of Alice Cooper, that's got a
yeah.
very serious lyrical twist to it. This just sounds like an overgrown baby that needs to get out of his garage and get a job and man up.
I agree.
Uh, and,
I,
and as
I
far
think
as the
musically,
music, musically it's good. Thanks, Ray Davies. you
yeah,
know,
yeah, it's very all day and all the night, for sure. And if I could, if this were to be put on any solo album, it would probably be The Eyes of Alice Cooper, just because they're trying to go for that kind of garagey kind of
Garage.
sound.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Um, that came kind of post industrial phase.
Right, right.
Um, but no, it's almost trying too hard to be silly and cool, and yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot for me. So no, it's a throwaway track for me for sure.
It almost, it might have worked if Alice hadn't sung it. It might have worked if, say, Michael Bruce had sung it or somebody else had sung it. It might have had that, oh, this is fun because you're obviously playing a character, but Alice is so
Good.
identifiable as Alice. It just it does it
That's
it, it doesn't ring true.
that's also a good point. I think Michael actually probably could have done it better. His voice is a little, and we're going to get into that, his voice coming up here soon on Famous Faces. But like, I think that Crap That Gets in the Way of Your Dreams I think that's a really good point. I think that if Michael had sung that, maybe it could have taken a bit of that turn of I didn't make it as far as Alice. Like maybe they could have done something with that
Yeah.
where it's almost a bit of a rivalry.
Well, it's like that song, I hate you.
Well, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That one that the band co-wrote and co-sang on.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily love that song either, because not all the guys have great voices
No.
for
It's
singing.
like when Kiss did that
Um,
song, You Want It the Best, where they all four of them
Yeah.
sang a line, and yeah, I don't know, but
But it has that, if it had come off in more of a if it had more of a vibe like I Hate You, where they were trying to burn and chop each other down a little bit,
yeah,
then maybe that could have been salvaged for
yeah,
sure.
this just
But
sounds
yeah,
like one
it's
guy complaining to nobody, like
yeah,
just
to a kink song. Yeah.
yeah, to a King song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Famous Face. What did you think of this one?
I thought this one was pretty this took a few listens. I didn't love it right away. I know a lot of people who really liked it. One of their top song, like some other fans who liked it right out of the gate. This one's got Michael on lead vocals. I think the liner notes of the album does not credit that properly, but it is Michael Bruce on lead vocals, and he wrote this and performs it. Um, I think he actually does a fairly good job on the vocals. I don't mind Michael's voice in some songs. I don't like Michael Bruce's voice on everything for sure. Like over the years, he's had different output with whether it's Billion Dollar Babies or solo stuff or Rock Rolls On, different albums that they're hit and miss for me on vocal delivery. Like I don't think he has the world's best um, voice, but I think there are certain songs I actually quite like, and I think he does a pretty decent job on this one. It's a fairly middle of the road rocker. The guitar the guitar riff on this one, and I want to see if you agree on this. It's very Road Rats.
Kind of is, yeah.
Da da
That
da 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 da.
yeah.
Over and over again. Like to me, it's built on Dick Wagner's Road Rats
Which
riff.
is weird considering Michael wrote it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
But it
so
is one note off. Like it trails at the end instead of
yeah,
na 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 na. Like it's
yeah.
got one note that travels a different direction at the end. But it is very, and maybe that's just me. And I like Road Rats, not
And
the
if there's one
remake, but the
song we don't
original
need
one.
another version of, but
I was gonna say I love the Road Rats 1977
yeah,
version, and and the version that was on Roadie.
Roadie, yeah, yeah.
So I don't love this song, but I like it, and I think Bruce did a good job on the mic overall. I give it kind of a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's not in the upper echelon, but it's a decent track. And when I picture it, when I hear it, I picture him. I don't know exactly who the subject matter is pointed towards, but I just think of so many people out there who you're just
Are
another famous
are
I don't
famous
need
are
to
famous for being famous, and they actually haven't done anything.
the Kardashian effect, right? Like, I mean, it's
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
that kind of,
Paris Hilton, all that
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So it rings true in that regard. And I think the lyrics are actually quite, quite biting. And I think they come from a place, he means this, you get a sense that
Yeah.
that he means what he says
I
when he
wish you'd
says you're
get the
just
hell off
another.
my TV or like
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, it's interesting. I had written, I don't mind this song, but for a song that Michael Bruce wrote and sang, it still sounds like it could have come off one of Alice's more recent albums to me. It doesn't
totally.
sound
Yeah.
like an original band song at all.
No, yeah, I agree, and that's why I wrote it's a fairly middle of the road rocker. There isn't anything like there's some of the songs that we have pointed out that we really like. You get a whether it's the subject matter, whether it's the overall vibe, whether it's the musicianship, whether it's Dennis's bass line in particular, whatever it might be. There's something or multiple things that give it an Alice Cooper group
Yeah.
vibe. This isn't one of those. This is one any rock band could do this song and probably
Right.
have a hit with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
so not not don't love it, but don't hate it. So
Yeah. So next up, we've got kind of an Alice Cooper sounding title, but to me, again, this is another song that sounds like it doesn't sound like
yeah,
anybody in the original group co-wrote it. Money Screams. This sounds
yeah,
like it could have
yeah.
come off anything, in the 2000s, really.
You know what, Tim? I think it almost sounds like it could have come out of the 80s.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Um, my note on this one, I don't mean 80s Alice, even. I'm not talking 80s Alice.
No,
I'm
just
not
80s in
talking
general.
this could have been on Constrictor or Raise Your Fist and Yell or That's not what I'm, and certainly none of the blackout, like, so not 80s Alice.
No, just 80s in
I mean
general.
like the 80s.
Yeah.
Like I could see this running over the end credits to a friggin' Rodney Dangerfield flick
Yeah.
and being, you know what I mean? Like it just has that. And I'm not saying that's not a terrible thing. There's nothing wrong with 80s Rodney Dangerfield flicks.
Yeah.
It doesn't suck, but it doesn't do a ton for me. Um, that said, I've heard a lot of people in my travels over the last week who listed up as one of their top songs. I don't understand why, I don't understand why. It's one of their top songs, but hey, to each their own, right? Everyone's got a different opinion. I I don't uh I don't hate it, but yeah. Da, 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 ba, ba. Like
Yeah.
there's something almost 80s about it, man.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Next up is What a Sid, SYD. Now,
What
this
a
is one that was
Sid.
written by Alice and Dennis Dunaway. What are your thoughts on this one?
Written by Alice and Dennis Dunaway about Glenn Buxton.
Yeah, I
Um,
figured. Yeah.
yeah. So what a Sid he would call, and this is from hanging out in the Sid Barrett days.
I figured it
Of
must
course,
have
he
been
was,
the way it was
yeah,
spelled. Yeah.
yeah. So that was a term he had for people. What a Sid, if someone was being a Sid. I like it. My daughter's name is Sid or Sydney, but we call her Sid. So I was like, hey, my kid's got a
Nice.
title on the album. Um, a song about Glenn Buxton. I've heard a lot of people say it reminds them of Blue Turk, and I could certainly I could
Yeah.
see where they go with that because it's the original band doing a fairly jazzy kind of. Um, for me, it's closer to Stray Cat Strut.
Oh, it
It is
very, that was my, yeah, it very much sounds like straight. Don't. Yeah. Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
Brian
Very
Setzer
much.
Orchestra, Stray Cats.
Yeah.
And again, I like Stray Cats. I like good old rockabilly. Stray Cat Built for
Yeah.
Speed was one of my first albums when I was like 10 years old. So I don't mind that at all. Um, I wrote down it Stray Cat Strut meets the Pink Panther when it first starts. That da, da,
Yeah.
da, da, da.
Yeah.
Uh, the more I listen to it, the more I enjoy it. I think because it's about Glenn, I got a soft spot for it. Um, I got long, snakeskin boots and long blonde hair. Like I can, and a stolen guitar. I like that it's about Glenn Buxton.
Yeah.
Obviously, us Alice Cooper group fans are, Glenn holds a special place in our heart. So I love that there's a song that the guys wrote about Glenn on here. Uh, and I don't mind that they went outside the rock vein. Again, they've done it before. Again, they did it with Blue Turk. Now, I will not. For me, it's blasphemy to compare this to Blue Turk because Blue Turk's one of my favorite Alice Cooper group. My favorite song on School's Out, anyway. Like I absolutely love Blue Turk. If I was to give it a closer comparison to an Alice, and these are solo, I get it, but it's closer to a Some Folks.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much. Yeah.
Especially at the beginning, the
Da,
snap
da,
fingers,
da, da,
like
da, 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 da. Yeah.
so it's almost Some Folks meets, Last Man on Earth from Welcome to My Nightmare
Yeah.
even.
Isn't there a
Um
part of Gutter Cat that kind of has that, or am I getting that mixed up?
uh
When you're a jet, like isn't
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there's the breakdown, yeah, where it's kind of
yeah.
when you're a jet all the way, for sure. That would have a bit of that vibe to it as well. And again, that fits in on that album because of that, the West Side Story kind of vibe to it. I don't mind What a Sid. I do like the jazzy shuffle to
Yep.
it. I like the musicianship of it. I think when it gets into the little the nice jazzy kind of guitar solo in there, it is no Blue Turk. It is no Blue Turk by any stretch. But it's one that it's not a skip. It's not a skip song for me for sure. Um, Whereas the couple before it, I would skip to get to this one.
Yeah.
I guess to
Uh,
put it that way. It's different, so I'll give it that. What are your thoughts?
I kind of like it, and I basically agree with you. Stray Cat Strut was the first thing I thought of, but it's fun. It's
Yeah,
listable. It's and I did, without just, I figured it was about Glenn from the lyrics. And how crazy is it too? And you're talking, but it took them this long. Glenn died in what, 97? It took
yeah,
them this long to to finally get it together to do an album. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we could have had 10 of these or whatever. But anyway,
for sure.
that's all.
Yeah.
Next up, Intergalactic Vagabond Blues. This one is written by pretty much the entire surviving band except for Dennis.
Everybody
Um,
but Dennis and Bob Ezrin thrown in for good measure.
yeah,
Bob Ezrin's on most of these songs, to be honest. There's only a few where Bob, Money Screams, What a Sid were a couple, but Ezrin's in on quite a few. I like the harmonica in this one, but I'm not a
me,
massive overall fan of this song.
yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought it was the harmonica was interesting because that's not something that you hear a lot in Alice Cooper. I mean, the first thing that came to mind was that song, what's it called? Why Don't You Love Me from like the 60s when they were, the
Yeah.
Spiders. And it's bluesy. I didn't mind it.
What I
It's
liked about harmonica, the harmonica was in the early days, it was more of a it was more notable, certainly in the pre-Alice Cooper, but then even into, it's on Fields of Regret, has some harmonica in it. Like there's some songs off those first couple of albums that have uh some harmonica in them. Sing Low Sweet Cheerio, I think, has there's some good stuff. Alice is a great harmonica player. I like that part of it, but overall, I'm not massive on this. I don't love Coop's vocal delivery on this one either. It's a little bit into that holy water vibe from
right.
Paranormal for me.
Yeah.
It's a fun romp, I guess, but it's not one of my top songs. It's a middle of the road, but it's not one of my top songs on the albums for sure. It doesn't compare to the three on side B
Right,
of
right.
this
No, no,
album,
not at all. Um, I didn't mind it. It to me, it kind of, it's not a skip, and it just
Yeah.
kind of, it's kind of there. But it's interesting with the harmonica because it's almost hinting at what's yet to come as
Yes.
far as
Yeah.
going way, way back with the sound. Now, the next
Yeah.
one is What Happened to You? This one is co-written, or this one is credited to the entire original five and Bob Ezrin,
And Bob. Yeah.
and there's some Glenn Buxton guitar on here.
Yeah. So there's a snippet of there's some guitar recordings that were found and cleaned up a little bit. And kind of looped, like cleaned up and looped that they could kind of use to. I mean, it's not really to say it's a GB riff that they built. This isn't. Remember the Beatles song
It's not like
from
Free as a
last year?
Bird, right? Or yeah,
Yeah,
now and then,
or
yeah,
the song from last year, right, where they found
yeah,
a
yep,
John Lennon demo tape and used AI to clean it up and managed to turn it into a full-on song and get the band back together and put around it. And um, so it's a pretty loosely, featuring Glenn Buxton, to be honest, because it's just such a
yeah.
small a
It makes
small
for
snippet.
it makes for a marketing thing, right?
It makes for a market. It makes for a cool story, and it
Yep,
is so nice to hear all five on a song. So I mean, I don't want to slag. I
yeah.
don't want to slag it too much because it is nice to see a song with all five original members, right? Bruce, Buxton, Cooper, Dunaway, Smith, all
It
listed.
is something very
Uh,
classic about that.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
something very cool around that, but it's a pretty. So I love that part of it, but it's a very standard rocker. It's very kind of Johnny B. Good, whatever, that style of kind of no 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 no, like that 50s Johnny B. Good kind of, and that's just not necessary. That's not really my jam. It's not really my cup of tea in terms of a musical style. I wish that the song that had GB's riff was something that was a bit had a bit more of punch to that riff that they could have done. And I'm not expecting another Schools Out or anything like that, but I wish that there could have been something that was a bit more Alice
yeah.
Cooper group sounding. This doesn't sound like Alice Cooper group. This sounds like this could have easily been the guys doing a cover of the song "What Happened to You" by Chuck Berry, or you know what I mean? Like,
Well, what it makes me think of is I just want to make sure I got the right. Just give me a bear with me here. I want to make sure I
yeah,
got the right album because yeah, okay. Um, I'm actually a really big fan of the last few Deep Purple albums. I think they've been on a pretty good streak, and Bob Ezrin has produced all of those
oh, is that
albums
right?
since 2013.
Okay.
Now they put an album out in 2020 called Whoosh, and there's a song on it called What the What, and it's very much like this song. It's a very 50s, it's rocker, it stops up. What the what happened to you last night? And that's what I think of when I hear this song. And I'm really
Right.
surprised because Ezrin had, he produced that album, and it's like
It's that one. Yeah.
it's very similar. And there's also parts of this that remind me of Under My Wheels. Not a lot, but just a little bit in the structure of the riff. But it's
Yeah.
okay. But to me, this one's quite derivative.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
think so too.
it would have been better if they could have. I mean, imagine if they could have found something, out of the archives from Glenn that they could have used on, Kill the Flies or One Night Stand or Blood on the
Yes.
Sun. That would have
Yes.
been more. But hey, it's here. It's
It's
it's it,
here,
it's hard not to
and I'm
like because
yeah,
Glenn's on it, and there's nothing
exactly.
wrong with it. It's just yeah, it's just a basic
I'm
rock and roll
not.
song.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to. I'm not going to slag on a song that is partially credited to GB, because we love GB, and it's so good to hear all five. But it's a fairly standard, and I get, that is a good point you make about it being maybe slightly under my wheels ish. Again, classic song, so really tough to live up to that. But when you go back and look at the song structure of Under My Wheels, that was derivative of that 50s and 60s rock
Oh,
for
it's got that
sure.
da 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 da
But
da.
Alice,
Yeah,
but the Alice Cooper band put a stamp on it with that, and then
yeah,
the stops and starts, and the music cutting out for Alice's the telephone is ringing, like
yeah,
they Alice Cooperified that style of song for Under My
yeah,
Wheels,
yeah.
um, and really made it their own. And in this one, I don't see the Alice Cooper group making it their own in any way. It's just a kind of that 50s Johnny B. Good style rolling kind of rocker.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, great to hear GB on there. I like it because of that. It's not one I'll skip. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not one of my favorites on the album.
Yeah. Next up is I Ain't Done Wrong, which is a Yardbirds song. And so written by the late Keith Relf. And it's funny because whenever I hear, I'm not overly familiar with the Yardbirds. I'm more familiar with the songs that other bands covered by them, like Shapes of
Yeah.
Things. And but it's when I hear a Yardbird song, I always try to imagine like this could conceivably, I mean, Aerosmith might have done this instead of Train Kept a Rolling, or uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, I think I froze. Oh, I froze up for a
Okay. Yeah,
second. I was
but
just wondering what your thoughts were on their version of I Ain't Done Wrong.
it's okay. It doesn't stray too much from the original version, to be honest. My biggest thing on this is that this album didn't need a cover.
No.
And I've said this for the last few albums, just stop. Just
Yeah.
leave the covers to the Hollywood Vampires.
Yeah.
When you got a 14 track album, they were doing so good. You almost made it without putting a cover on. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like um, you and I talked about Road had a few, including covers of Alice songs that were
And Magic
unnecessarily
Bus,
on there.
like yeah. At
Magic
least
Bus was,
yeah, at
yeah,
least this was, at least they didn't cover Heartful of Soul or Shapes of Things. 1,000,006 people have done Shapes of Things. So at least they picked
yeah,
a more obscure
yeah.
song. But yeah.
I don't think for the first original Alice Cooper group song album in 52 years, possibly their last, who knows? They were asked at the event if this would be a one and done or if there'd be another. They didn't rule anything out, but again, this could be the last time we hear the band. They didn't need a cover by anybody. I know they're big Yardbirds fans, and they're in the early days they gigged with them, and
Yeah.
but it didn't need a cover. There's 14 songs on this album. It could have been 13, or instead of a 14 song album, um, make it 13, or have Titanic over Underture rather than being one of the bonus. Have it close
Mm,
out this album as your 14th song,
right.
because
Yeah.
I think that would have been a really cool bookend. Because
Yeah.
if you look at this and say this could conceivably be the very last Alice Cooper group album, which it certainly could be, how cool would it be to say "Pretty's for You" opened with Titanic Overture,
Yeah.
and now the eighth Alice Cooper group album, Revenge of Alice Cooper, closes with the lyrical version called Over Underture.
Yeah.
That would have been a better way to end the album off, and if they wanted to keep the 14, 14 songs on the track, but or 14 tracks on the album. Yeah, enough with the covers.
Yeah.
Leave that for the Vampires and Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Like I
Yeah.
just don't see them having to. You've got enough you got enough talent in that band that you don't need filler, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think the other thing that I'll just point out is that all the Alice Cooper group albums, for me, all seven. I know that there's a lot of people who don't like Pretties for You and Easy Action as much, but for me, those first seven albums are just all killer, no filler.
Yeah. And they're
Especially
all
the
and
70.
they're I think they're all originals except what, Sunrise?
Totally.
Yeah.
Hello Hooray, if you want to get
Oh, right,
technical,
right, right.
they
That's right.
but they really made it their own, added other lyrics, but there's not a whole lot in there in terms of covers. Uh I I don't know. It's an okay song, but it's not like they did anything really interesting with it to really inject that Alice Cooper DNA into this. It
Yeah.
sounds like the Yardbirds version of I Ain't Done Wrong. And if you love that song and you want to pay homage to those guys, then do Breadcrumbs 2.0, the group album, and do get the originals back to do some of your favorite songs that inspired you in your earlier in your career or whatever, right? Didn't belong on the album, so it's a skipper for me.
So next up we have, I guess you could say this is the end of the album proper with "See You on the Other Side," which again,
Yeah.
it's so funny. We talked, with Ozzy passing away, he's got a song with this title, but this one's
Yes.
obviously also about Glenn. So what did you
Yes.
think of this one?
Well, this one's been circulating for a while. This is the first proper recording of it, and it's the first one with Alice on it. This was originally written by Dennis, and I know that Dennis and Neil, I should say. Alice has a songwriting credit on here too, but that's probably for just a couple of changes that were made for this version of it. This was a Dennis and Neil song from 2002. Um, so this was Bouchard, Dunaway, and Smith
Okay.
when they had that band with Joe Bouchard, Blue Oyster Cult, and we're doing some touring back in the day. Neil and Dennis and Bouchard, Dunaway, Smith. They wrote it. It was performed. It was an ode to GB. It's all about Glenn Buxton. He wrote it for the Glenn Buxton Memorial Weekend at the Whiskey in Hollywood, and then performed it there, and then again, I believe at another Glenn Buxton Memorial Weekend in Cleveland. And then they performed it you can hear it live in Bouchard, Dunaway, and Smith in Paris, which it was, I believe, in 2002, 2003. There's a CD out there. And there's live footage of it on YouTube with Dennis singing it, with
Okay.
Neil on drums and Joe Bouchard on guitar. So it's been around for quite some time, a couple of decades. But Dennis has often said he really hoped to do a proper recording of it someday. So that's why it's on this album. And I think because of those reasons, uh, I'm glad they did it. I think it's been in the Alice Cooper community have known about this song for 20 plus years and have
Yeah.
heard Dennis sing it in in a heartfelt way. It's one that's, I think, a really special and important song for Dennis and Neil, especially. So I think they really wanted to make sure they got this one recorded. And obviously, it's about Glenn. Obviously, it's a great way to end off the album. It's one that if they ever did do a small tour of, I think if they were to do a tour, it'd be cool if they did like 10 cities and do bars and
Yeah.
get a couple other musicians to help fill in, right?
Yep.
Get a couple, get another guitarist to come, kind of like when they did it at Good Records in Dallas.
Yep.
Right? They had Ryan show up and fill in Glenn's part, just because it had been a while since the band had all performed together on stage. Dennis is always with his bass, so I'm not worried about him. But for Neil and Michael, they're not as regular on
Right.
their instruments as Alice is, and Dennis to a certain degree. Do a small tour of some venues. And can you imagine this one sung at a small bar? The Zippo lighters up in the air for
Maybe some
Glenn and
video on behind them of Glenn and
of
yeah.
Glenn,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it just to hear. um, a proper recorded version of this. And I know that given how long this one's been around and given what it means, especially like I said to Dennis and Neil, they must be just thrilled to have been
Yeah.
able to put this on wax and actually get a proper produced version of
Yeah.
"See You on the Other Side" on an Alice Cooper
Yeah.
album. So for that reason, I love it, and it's a pretty decent song.
There's nothing
It's
wrong with it. Yeah, it's
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 it's very
a it's a
sincere.
ballad. It's a sincere ballad. It's a power ballad, if you will.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
this
hard
could
to
have been in
fault.
the yeah, this could have been done in the heyday of power ballads. You know,
Yeah.
this could have been right up there
Yeah.
when all the other bands were doing at least one, if not two, on every album. And again, to hold up the Zippo lighter and have a slow dance too.
Yeah.
But obviously, heartfelt lyrics. I think the guys do a good job with it, and yeah, I'm glad that Dennis got to see it recorded properly.
Yeah. Probably like, I would say probably when, he wrote it, he had it in mind, like, what would it sound like if Alice was singing it?
Yeah, yeah. I wondered if there was any discussion because I've seen, again, the versions of Dennis writing it, or sorry, singing it himself as the writer, and playing bass and singing it with Joe and Neil. I wondered if there was a discussion I wonder if Alice said, "Dennis, why don't you take this one?" And Dennis just said, "No, I want to properly record this as an Alice Cooper song,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
want you to do me the honor of singing it." Or I don't know how that went, or if Dennis sang it and Bob said, "Get on the mic." Maybe they recorded a version each and they ended up going with Alice. I wondered. I have no idea. I like to think of what fly on the wall in the studio, how that happens. But it wouldn't have surprised me. We got one song on here that Michael Bruce and wrote, which of course isn't atypical. Right back, it was in the band's uh, more popular years. It was definitely all Alice on all the songs, but obviously on "Pretty's for You" and "Easy Action," Michael took lead singing vocals on a few songs. Right, "Beautiful Flyaway" was Michael Bruce. "Sing Low Sweet Cheerio" was Michael and Alice combining, sharing singing duties on that "Pretty's for You" song. So um, I wonder if there was a discussion at all of Dennis taking the mic on this one, but either way, decent way to close the album, and R.I.P. Glenn.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings us to the two un uncredited songs on the CD. So first up, we've got Return of the Spiders 2025, originally from Easy Action. And I thought that this was interesting that they chose, as far as a full song to do. It's interesting that they chose this song because I've always thought, and I think we talked about this. This is the first song where Alice sort of finds that Alice voice, the
Yeah,
raspy, look and listen, like,
yeah.
so I wonder what led them to redo this one, or maybe you know.
They didn't redo it though. This is from 1970.
Oh,
This is just an alternate take that they found, and Bob cleaned it up. So this
oh, okay.
was nothing new in the studio at all. This was just they had take B. They had this one that had more of a Chicago shuffle to it.
Okay.
Now, there's been a few people who I've heard say, "I wonder why they redid it," and I've had to mention that to them. I think the problem is they called it "Return of the Spiders 2025," and I have no idea why they named this song "Return of the Spiders 2025," because it is from 1970.
Wow. I feel like
Um,
I should have known that, but I didn't.
you can even hear Alice's voice, like you can tell it's Alice as a 20, early 20-year-old at the
Well,
beginning when he's
that's what
asking for someone to bring me a bear, like he sounds
I
like a
was,
fetus.
I was,
Um,
and he lets, he does like some yells or screams in it.
the voice was too good for it
And
to
I
be
remember
anything.
thinking, wow, he really gave it that day in the studio, like, give him some
Yeah,
oxygen. So, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But
yeah.
yeah, they should have, I don't know what they could have done. Return, just
They
alternate
should have just
tape
called it "Return
or,
of the Spiders Early Take" or "Alternate
yeah,
Take."
because
I have
that's the,
no clue why they would have put 2025 on the title at all. Makes
but,
zero sense.
but that is interesting because you've got Bob Ezrin involved with probably the most classic Alice Cooper sounding song from either of those two albums. And who
Yeah,
produced that second album? David Briggs, right?
David Briggs. Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
okay. Well, now I want to listen to it again and go. Well, of course, it's from
yeah.
1970.
So they had some clips and yeah, Bob, even though he wasn't the producer on that album, he wasn't in their hemisphere yet, right?
Right,
Until I mean, well, shortly after they were
right.
touring, performing. They might have performed that song at Max's Kansas City
Maybe,
the
yeah,
night that Bob Ezrin discovered them.
yeah.
More than likely they would have, but that would have been his only involvement up until helping clean this one up for this inclusion on this.
So we
But
do have Glenn then, a legitimate Glenn Buxton.
we legitimately have Glenn, and you know what? I love this version.
Yeah, me too.
I love it as much. I might even love it a tick more. And I
Yeah,
love Return of the Spiders. I thought
it's good. It's really, really.
the
It's
original one had you know, uh, Neil's doing almost Wipeout the entire way through. Like
oh,
the drums.
it's a workout of a drum
Yeah,
track.
but this one being a little different than that, rather than the Wipeout drums the entire way and just kind of going frenetically and more psychedelic. This has a bit of a Chicago shuffle to it. I
Yeah.
could see why they went the way they went for the album version, but I actually really like the Chicago shuffle, the harmonica, obviously Alice's vocal delivery was fantastic on both of them, but I'm tickled pink to be able to have this on 7-inch single because I love that version of this version of the song. But yeah, I don't know why they called it Return of the Spiders 2025. Makes zero sense. Because it's just from 1970.
It's yeah. Wow. I kind of feel like, of course, it's not from 2025. Listen to the vocal, but yeah.
But with a title like that, well, before this showed up, before I popped it, actually I heard this. I heard this early because I bought that poster variant of this
Okay.
album that had a uh, chip in the poster where if you point your phone at it and double click, it opens up
Oh, okay.
a portal to a streaming service. So it was a smart poster. They call it a smart poster format. So the two on the Black Mamba was the only song at the time that was out. That and the two bonus tracks were could be unlocked right away as soon as you got this poster. So I heard it digitally through my phone uh, months ago. And up until I heard it, I thought it was going to be Return of the Spiders 2025. I was like, they're redoing that song. This
Yeah.
is going to be interesting. Then I pop it in and I hear Alice in the studio, bring me a bear.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh my God, this is not, why would they call it 2025? Because it's not. And of course, then I've read interviews since that confirms that. And Bob talked about it at Union Chapel event. Like we found this audio and figured it was worth cleaning up and putting out there. Now with AI, right? They're using AI to clean up a lot of recordings and things like that. So he
Well,
talked
it
about that.
sounds good. Like it doesn't sound like a
Yeah,
musty 55-year-old recording.
yeah, it sounds really good.
Yeah. So that leads us to, like you said, the Titanic over Underture, which totally fits
Yeah,
the Alice Cooper band vibe.
and of
Um,
course that's new lyrics. That's Alice's voice now. That was
yeah.
new music and new. But I've always loved that opening song. I always thought it was weird and a little bit creepy. It was always meant, they wrote it Titanic. They wrote it as the song that would be playing when the Titanic was going down. I mean, that was uh,
Yep.
that was their sense of humor. I guess.
That's the concept. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the concept. So I always thought there was always a bit of a sinister or kind of eerie vibe to that. I always wondered because if you listen to that original song off Pretty's for You, it's it's quite uh it's cool keyboard playing, but then when it's starting to fade off and then the actual piano comes in, dun, 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 and it's fading down, you're like, where could that have gone?
Yeah.
It was just starting to get interesting, and you're fading out because it was only minute something long. So I'm glad to see, and it's no longer now. It's not like they built it out. They just like Alice wrote some lyrics. that I thought were really fitting and really creepy, and talks about under the sea, and it fits the theme of somebody losing hope, losing filled with despair, and kind of losing oxygen as they're going down, and so certainly fits thematically, and I'm glad they did it. As you know, I'm a big fan of those first two straight records, more than most. So to get a redux or a alternate version from both of those straight label
Yeah.
before Bob is,
Yep.
I don't know how that came to be, but I'm happy.
It seems
Um,
strategic, doesn't it? Like they
yes,
put some thought into it. Let's not just do a couple
yeah.
of random songs. Let's think about this.
Well, the other thing that's got me excited, and this I'm not going to hold my breath because, as you know, all the songs from Love It to Death to Muscle of Love have gotten either an expanded deluxe where there's a 2 LP set with, or 3 LP in some cases set where there's a couple alternate tracks, remastered versions, and then maybe a show, maybe
Right.
a Killer show or a whatever. So they did it for Killer, they did it for A School's Out, they did it for Billion Dollar Babies. There was a Muscle of Love deluxe pink vinyl last year that was really great. Love It to Death really didn't get the same deluxe treatment, but they did get a Rhino High Fidelity last year that was really well done. When I hear this Return of the Spiders, it gets me excited that, like, could there be enough other material that they have alternate versions of Beautiful Flyaway or Mr. Misdemeanor, or is there enough that they could cobble together a deluxe version, or would they bother? Would it sell? You
You
know
know
what
what
I
they
mean?
could,
Like, I
you
know
know,
that the hardcore fans would go out and buy it, but it's not a title that everybody's
right.
clamoring for.
But you know what they could do? They could put it out as, I hate the idea of a record store day exclusive, but definitely a record store day first. They could put out finally in North America the School Days package,
Yeah, yeah,
and use that
totally.
cover and that theme and have both albums.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
And then if there's any cutting room floor material, like there has to
Yeah.
be, right?
There
Like there
has to
has to
be.
be stuff. There has to be stuff from
Probably in the, I don't know, the Frank Zappa archives or something. Like, get,
yeah, there's got to be something somewhere. The other
yeah.
idea that I thought that could be a way to get some of those, and again, I'm selfishly just coming up with ideas to get those deluxe versions of those albums out for myself. But Love It to Death, when it first came out, was on Straight Records. That
That's
was the
right.
one. That was
That's
the
right.
one where it was a transition album, right?
Very
What
briefly.
if you
Yeah.
came out with a box set or a 3 LP or whatever you want to call it, compilation that was Alice Cooper, the best of the straight years?
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
mean,
then you could get up to and including alternate takes from Love It to Death sessions
yeah.
because it
No,
truly is a straight record.
that's a great idea. And I mean, I could see Rhino doing something like that. They did the old school box set. And I
Yeah.
mean, just recently, like, the for other bands, they put out that box set of Fleetwood Mac, the stuff between 1969 and 1974.
Yes.
None of those were big selling albums.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's very possible. And
Yeah.
I never would have thought it, but that's right. It wasn't always strictly on Warner's.
Yeah.
It was originally on Straight. That's a
Kind of a
great
work.
idea.
It could be a workaround to get some straight material out there,
Yeah.
right? That way you
And
could go
and
all the
that
way
way, I
from
mean, you could say, look, it's got I'm 18 on it. It's got Ballad of Dwight Fry.
it's totally. It's got you could throw a live set on there from '71 on one of the album on one of the platters, and call it you know yeah, a live set from Max's Kansas City or wherever, like a breakthrough, like.
And how about maybe for once do a cleaned up version of the Toronto 1969 show that has been bootlegged or has been counterfeited so many times.
Well, there's one on CD. Do you know about Nobody Likes Us?
I've
There's
got
one
one.
called Nobody Likes Us. I'm
Oh,
gonna I'll see if I can find a copy. That'll be my next project for you, Tim, is to
okay.
try to get you a
I got
copy of this.
I think everybody's got to have at least one. I found one at a Walmart that's called Nobody Likes Me, and you
Yeah,
look at the
so
front
this one's
cover and it's
called
got Kane Roberts on the cover.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, so there's one out of the UK, Apple Bush Records,
Okay.
that's called Nobody Likes Us. Alice Cooper Group Toronto Rock and Roll Revival. And it's the only one that is speed corrected from the original 1 inch. Um, Liner notes correct, song titles correct. The band was, Michael and others were reached out to get correct song title information, and it's really good. It's
Doesn't have the
a
Ronnie Hawkins songs on it.
no, doesn't have Ronnie, doesn't have going to the woman or ain't that just like a woman or going to the river.
Yeah.
Um, no, it's a really good one. It's comes in a kind of a fold out, not quite digipack, but kind of a neat kind of trifold cardboard sleeve. Some original copies even came with chicken feathers inside. When you opened it up,
Nice.
chicken feathers came out.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a copy with the chicken feathers, and it's the one that is. It's only available on CD. I'd love to have that same. I'd love to have LP. I'd love to have a vinyl version
So
of
it, so
that.
it's listenable.
Very listenable. It is
Yeah.
actually, it's really good. It's
Yeah.
completely cleaned up, and there's actually a bonus set on there from San Francisco around the same time period, a couple
Very
of weeks
cool.
later.
See, that's the stuff
So
we want to hear, right? That's that.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
Well,
send you a,
that's
I'll send you a link, and if I ever come across one for a decent price, I'll snap it up or alert you to it because it's worth
wow.
having.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. So that's our review of the album, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. But I think we both agree it's a pretty strong album. It's definitely stronger than the
yeah,
last few. And hey, I'll take it. I'll take a even
100%.
half a really good album at this point because we just don't know how much more we're gonna get. You know.
Absolutely. And I don't think that's atypical anymore. Like I think back in the 70s at the height of some of the, if you're a Kiss fan, you could say this about Kiss. If you're an Alice fan, you could say it about Alice, Aerosmith. Those classic albums, you can look back now and maybe even at the time you could go, it's all killer, no filler for sure. I think that is the way it was for certainly 71 to 73 for Alice. There's not a whole lot of skippable songs on there, right? Like you put the album on and but I don't think that's the case anymore in music in general. So I mean, let's not be too hard on it because it isn't
It's
bangers. Eight,
extremely uncommon when you get something like I legitimately really like every single song on here. And I think
yeah,
that you have to be realistic and lower those expectations a little bit and go, look, I'll take a strong 8 at this point. I'll consider
yeah,
that a success and worth my
yeah,
investment. So,
yeah.
so now we move on to something very, very cool. And I guess I'll start by asking how did this trip happen for you and kind of take us through it?
Well, the trip, the album, of course, we all knew the release date was going to be July 25th. So everybody, us fans, anybody who's a fan of the original band or Alice in general, had that circled on their calendar. Uh, then an announcement came out that the day before on July 20th, because Alice is going to be in London on July 25th, Judas Priest at O2, at the O2
Yeah.
Arena. I knew about that show. I thought, oh, that be, I look at every time I see an Alice show, wouldn't I like to be there? But certainly wasn't on my radar to go there until I saw then uh, an ad for this Union Chapel event. And it was July 24th in London at this great old church. And then everybody got to thinking, well, that's the day before the album comes out, and you're in London and you got the originals with you. So certainly they're going to make an appearance on stage then the night after at the O2, and everybody's heads start explode, like
Yeah.
so I just thought, and they did come out at the end and do Schools Out at the end, the original band with and Johnny Depp came out, the whole thing, right? Then they did a
Yeah.
cool Paranoid cover for Ozzy Osbourne. It was
Yep.
great. That was awesome. But when I heard that the original group were going to be all in this one really cool special place, and then it was in London, which I just have so many great friends from the Alice Cooper collecting and fandom community that are UK based that I knew, of course, would be there.
Yeah.
Started then seeing that other people I know from Norway and Australia are starting to go, and I'm kind of going. And sitting out back one night, my wife was there and my daughter, and sitting having a beer, and I just mentioned, not for any other reason other than like, how cool would it be to be at this event? And my wife said, you should go. And I went,
That's awesome to
I
have
didn't even
that
think
support.
about that I
Yeah.
should look at,
Yeah.
um, because it's not cheap, it's not easy. You know what I mean? It's a 9 hour flight and a few grand, and it's but then she got a laptop as we were sitting out in the backyard, and we can use some points. We can get you a
Yeah. Started
flight. Which
crunching,
day do you
crunching
want to
some
go?
numbers. Yeah.
Which day do you want to go? When do you want to come back? And hey,
Yeah.
what area is it in? And I started reaching out to a couple of people, and my friend Chris, my friend Charles. I'm thinking about doing this. Like, what do you? My friend Charles said this is a hotel that we're going to stay at, and so then I could kind of look and see what I could do in terms of availability, and is there room for me? Can I make this work on the dates that I need to come and go? And anyway, within 10 hours, I had flights booked, and I was reaching out to all my Alice Cooper buddies from around the world, going, "I'm going to be there too," and it was just so cool to meet these people in person. People who, like I said, I've known for some, well, at least 5 years, some of them longer. We've traded. I've been gifted things by them. We've had so many communications back and forth through all the different various channels that, I get the birthday, happy birthday, messages on your birthday. And like you really do, they're friends. We just hadn't met in person
Yeah.
before. So I crossed it off that was as much a part of my bucket list as seeing the original band, was seeing some of these great members. I
Yeah.
probably saw a couple of dozen people who I know from being online, but now I could shake their hand or give them a hug and have a beer with them, have a pint um, at an event. And so yeah, I'm so glad I went. This album I think is all the much more memorable then and special for me now because of where I heard it
Absolutely.
first,
It's
who
going
I
to
was
make you
with.
think. Yeah. It's going to make you think
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
So it'll definitely bring back this week in London, and for that I'm very, very grateful.
Had you met, I know you've met Alice, but had you met any like Michael or Neil?
No,
You never met any of them.
I have never had the pleasure of meeting. I've met other band members over the year, like Alice's band, like current band members, and Kane Roberts. I've met lots of different kind of people from Alice's, but never none of the originals. I've never
Yeah.
been at an
Had you
event
met Ezrin
where
before?
nope,
No.
nope. To be in the same room with all these people, and again, I'm a big Toronto Bob fan, not just because of the early days of Alice, who, he was their George Martin. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
then also during the solo years,
Yeah.
me and my love for Dada.
Yep.
Just the fact that I was in the same room with the guy that produced Dada was also another, like, take away everything else. And I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm a
In all
big
honesty,
Ezrin fan.
if I met Bob, if I knew I was going to meet Bob, I'd probably get him to sign music from The Elder.
Well, I was just
I
gonna
love
say,
that album.
I
I
love
got,
it too. I
yeah.
love it too, Tim.
Yeah.
I have this conversation. It seems like maybe once a month somewhere, because the subject of best albums, worst albums for whatever will come up, and I seem to every few weeks see comments on Elder, yay or nay. Like there's these kind of
Yeah.
questions posed on Instagram or Facebook, and I'm always defending it big time. I
Yeah.
love that album, and so I don't know if I don't think I love those albums because it's Bob Ezrin. I think I love Bob Ezrin because all the albums that I really,
Yeah.
really love, he was
Yeah.
he was involved in.
Yeah.
So yeah, early '80s weird Ezrin shit is my jam.
Yeah. And it sure was weird. Yeah. And Dada probably, we've talked about Dada probably was the weirdest. People
Yes.
talk about the early stuff as being weird, and it was.
Yeah.
Dada is weird on another level of weird.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you said, put that album on with headphones and listen to the intro, and it's just like
Oh yeah.
you will freak out. You'll think for
Yeah.
sure there's something in the house. There's something.
Yes. Yes. 100
Yeah.
100%. Those are first few notes on the Dada's title track are,
Yeah.
yeah, really
Where is
something.
my daughter? Where is my son? I'm kind of tired. I'm kind
Yeah,
of tired now.
you don't you
Yeah.
don't have a son.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I have oh yeah. Ugh. Just thinking about it. Anyway, Mike, this has been absolutely fantastic. I knew I wanted to talk to you about this, and I'm very flattered that you've abstained from giving your opinions on it until you did this. So that means a lot. So yes, folks, if you're even the slightest bit interested in Alice Cooper and the myriad bonus things and variants of albums, do follow Mike on Instagram at Alice Cooper Collector, and you will see stuff you've never seen before, foreign variants of the most obscure albums and singles and you name it. So all kinds of cool stuff. But hey, it's always a good day when we can talk about a new Alice Cooper album because, like I said, who knows how
Yeah,
much more there is. So, Mike, thanks for
absolutely.
doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tim. My pleasure. And anytime you have another Alice Cooper topic, you just pick up the phone, my friend.
All right, cool. All right,
All right.
so folks, thanks for watching this episode of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Go get that new Alice Cooper album and listen to it. It's pretty darn good. We'll see you later.